to
Yay,
you.
woohoo, whoop-de-doo.
The Baseball Hour with Tony Mazz.
Swing the bat.
The Baseball Hour is brought to you by Vinzo's Primo Vino, Jackson Lumber, FindMassMoney.gov, Golf, Monkey Sports, and Blue Moon Belgium White.
Now, Tony Mazz on the Sports Hub.
I hit him. Comes up and in. Curtis Mead hit by the pitch.
He's got that guard right on that hand, but it's not what you want here in game one with a new club.
95-mile-an-hour fastball.
I don't mean he knew that there was an injury or a broken wrist. What he knew is that there was a reason to be worried, which I think a lot of people felt when that pitch hit Curtis Mead on the left forearm the other night, and turns out broken bone, going to see a specialist in Boston, and is now out for the foreseeable future, and let's be honest, in all probability, the balance of the season. So this is where we start tonight on the Baseball Hour, 617-779-0985. Jared Carrabis is with us via Zoom. We have a ton to get to. Jared, are you there?
I'm here, Tony. It's 10 years, a decade of destruction of Tony Mazz and Jared Carrabis joining forces on this very program once a week during baseball season.
Okay, so explain to everyone. I know you put this out on Twitter, but is today actually the 10th anniversary of your first appearance on the Baseball Reporters /Hour?
No, you've been stuck with me for 11 years. On September 28th, 2015, I tweeted, excited to announce that I'll be making my Baseball Reporters debut on 98.5 The Sports Hub with Tony Mazz this Wednesday at 6 p.m. And then 10 years ago today, I tweeted, excited to announce I'll be joining Tony Mazz on the Baseball Reporters once a week starting tonight at 6. So I became a regular once a week guy 10 years ago today, but 11 years ago was my first appearance.
I see. I got it. So 11 years ago we met. 10 years ago today we got engaged.
We actually met in 2007 when Manny Ramirez hit that walk-off home run off of K-Rod in the American League Division Series. That was the night that we met.
Okay, so I hope I was polite.
Not memorable for you, but I mean, I remember meeting Tony Mazz. Yes.
I hope I was polite to you, Jared. How old were you
Very
at that
nice.
time?
Yeah, I was 18. I just graduated high school. You were very nice to me, very nice to my dad. And yes, that was the first time that we met that night.
Okay, good to know. All right. Well, Jared is presented by Blue Moon Belgian White, as usual, served with its iconic orange slice ritual. Blue Moon is a one-of-a-kind game day beer experience. That's Blue Moon Brewing Company, Golden, Colorado. Celebrate responsibly. Jared, the big story of the week, indisputably. First, the acquisition of Curtis Mead, then the injury to Curtis Mead, just 2 plate appearances with the Red Sox, got drilled in the left forearm, left wrist a couple of nights ago, has a broken bone there, or broken bones, unclear as to the specificity of the injury, but we'll find out more here in coming days. So I'll tell you what, let's start from the very beginning. We'll go chronologically. Mm-hmm. The time of the trade, Connolly early for Curtis Mead. Give me your assessment of the deal at that time.
Okay, so I was a fan of the deal. I'm still a fan of the deal. I think when people are like, whoa, that's too much to give up, those people are not incorrect, but I think that they are maybe overestimating the value of a Connolly early right now. So I think if you were to have gotten fair value, it would have been a Curtis Mead and a prospect. It wouldn't have been a major league player of higher significance or whatever. Like, I think what you were missing to offset that deal would have been a prospect. So like, whatever, like, I don't care at that point.
Okay.
What I did like about the deal a lot was Craig Breslow talking like an executive that he hasn't spoken like yet, at least in his tenure. It hasn't registered with me that he's spoken like this. He said, which is very important, we've had this conversation on this show about Chaim Bloom. We've had it about Craig Breslow. I don't care if I quote unquote win the deal. We had an area of need and we addressed it from an area of surplus. I'm paraphrasing, but that was the sentiment. That's so refreshing to hear, because I feel like so often, not just in this market, but throughout the league, you have executives that are afraid to make deals because they don't want to get Seward on the internet, and it's, oh, you guys lost the deal. You guys gave up too much. Craig Breslow looked at it as, this guy has a .500 slugging percentage. He can come in and help us right now. We can't score runs. We don't have pop. He can address that, and to not care about the defense really, because not a good defender. But it's like, all right, we can stick him at second base where there's an opening, because, Siegler, spark plug, yes, but like not tearing the cover off the ball. Meyer, who cares if he ever plays a game for the Red Sox again this season? So yeah, I liked the deal. It's just very unfortunate. I know I've been yapping, but this was tweeted right before we came on the air. Chris Cotillo of Mass Live said Curtis Mead is not expected to have surgery on his broken wrist, and the initial timetable given to him today was for a tentative 6 to 8 week recovery. So that is more optimistic than what I was reading about, because I think he had a similar injury a few years ago, and it was 60 something days, and whatever the allotted time was for the last time that he had the injury and recovered from it, it would have put his return a day after the regular season ends.
Okay, so that's a notable piece of information, which I'm going to repeat, Jared, because for the benefit of the listening audience, again, Chris Cotillo of Mass Live tweeting that Curtis Mead has met with the specialist in Boston and that he will not need surgery to repair the fracture in his left wrist, and he has a estimated 6 to 8 week recovery time. Is that exactly what it says? Because I don't have it in front of me.
That is what it says, Tony. And but what I tweeted was, 6 to 8 weeks, according to the Red Sox medical staff, is about 4 to 6 months in real human time.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Yeah, you have to. It's sort of dog years when you're talking about the Red Sox medical staff. So I will tell you that on first glance, based on what that tweet from Cotillo says, that's good news as far as the recovery time. And the fact that there's no surgery tells you that the bone's not displaced. I mean, I suppose it could be, and they could have reset it by hand. But I guess what I'm telling you is I don't think it's a severe fracture. It is, could be like a hairline or just something that's going to require some healing. And, they're going to have to let it set and heal on its own. Now, that raises all kinds of other questions about, what's it going to be like when he gets back? Does that mean he's going to be 100%? Is there going to be atrophy in the area because he's probably going to be in a cast or a splint or both, depending on the period of time? But it could have been worse. If he needed surgery, he was toast and it was over and you had zero chance. Now, I think there's very little impact of him making some sort of significant contribution. And Jared, this gets to my assessment of the player. I honestly can't believe you kind of bought the bull crap from Breslow about, I'm not trying to win the trade, I'm trying to help the team, because I think that was a convenient thing to say when we have criticized both him and his predecessor for being more interested in winning deals than winning games. And I think the Red Sox had a little bit of a PR campaign on that one to set the record straight. However, I do think they overpaid for Connolly early. I think Paul Taboni told you that when he said the Red Sox have enough pitching depth so that they could go, quote, out on a limb for Curtis, is what he said. Out on a limb, which tells me there's a gamble involved with Curtis Mead. So tell me just quickly, before we get to the injury and the ramifications, really, why do you believe in the player? Because I'm concerned that he's a bit of a flash in the pan.
For me, hearing Breslow talk about it on the broadcast, and Will Middlebrooks too addressed the same thing on NESN during the game when they were up there with Dave O'Brien, and there's tangible changes to the swing, all the under the hood metric. We're not talking about like, oh man, like this guy, he had a really hot month, and he did. He actually third best OPS in baseball for the month of July. In the national, actually, I think it was just the National League. But third best OPS in the National League. Like, yeah, sure. If it was just that, if we were just talking about 1 month and the career was what it was before that, we're talking about the entire season. There's things that you can point to as to why he's doing what he's doing. And I get where you're coming from, Tony. Like, he's been a top prospect, and I don't want to say he's a journeyman. I don't think he's a journeyman, but this is his fourth organization now at 25? Fifth organization at the age of 25. Sometimes it just takes the right thing to click, and then you go from there. I can't promise you that he'll be the .500 slugging percentage infielder the rest of the way, but if you can do it for a full season, sure. I have no reason to believe that he's just going to fall off randomly. Well, now because of the injury, yes, it's a completely different story. But
okay, so Jared, now that you raise this point, if you take out the month of July, okay, and he's been hot in July, but my point is, so is Caleb Durbin. So, who is the real Caleb Durbin? And there's a lot to like about Durbin. He's a gritty guy, what have you. But for the first 70 games of the season, Curtis Mead hit .224 with a 781 OPS. And I'm not telling you the OPS is insignificant. Okay, he's got a good command of the strike zone for the most part. The old rule is one walk for every 10 plate appearances is, an acceptable number. That's the one you're looking for, that or more. He had 27 walks in 254 plate appearances. So the command of the strike zone was pretty good and only struck out 49 times in 70 games. But, you look at those numbers and say 224 average versus, in 781 OPS versus what he did in the month of July, which, raised his season numbers considerably. And in the month of July, he had an OPS over 1,100 with a 361 average. So, they got him, the Nationals sold him at the absolute peak is what I'm getting at. Okay, but now, as we know, he's gone. He's gone. What should the Red Sox do in the wake of the Curtis Mead injury? Should they double down, go out and make other deals, continue to build, or should they back off and protect their prospects?
No, I continue to make moves, because the moves that you should make, let's say the Curtis Mead injury doesn't happen, I still move forward with the exact same plan, whether it happened or whether it didn't happen. I'm still calling the Marlins. I'm asking about Otto Lopez, a guy that is probably going to end up with like 7 to 8 WAR this year. He's super, super under the radar, underrated player. And then they also have Liam Hicks, who is a catcher. And I'm not as gung-ho on Liam as I guess the rest. I don't know. The nerds are maybe in on, but Otto Lopez, I'm in love with. I love the player. He's a guy that we interviewed him on Monday, and he was explaining how, I used to just be like this offensive player, and now I work really hard on my defense, and now that's what I'm most proud of. He's a very well-rounded player, and that's who I would be targeting if I were if I were the Red Sox.
Yeah, so again, Otto Lopez is a shortstop, and I will say, Jared, of all the stuff that has come out about the trading deadline, I guess I'm talking predominantly post Curtis Mead, that the Red Sox interest in a shortstop is what I find most fascinating. In terms of the roster composition, the future of the team, their interest in a shortstop is of most interest to me. So I want to explore that further with you and with our audience, which we will do next when we come back on the Baseball Hour. In the interim, I see Frank in Boston on the phone. I see Chuck in a car on the phone, waiting on hold, rather, is what I should say. And so 617-779-0985. If others want to join the conversation, we'd love to hear from you. Jared Carrabis again via Zoom. And when we come back, the Red Sox interest in a shortstop. What does it mean in the short term and the long? We will get to that when we come back with
0-2. St. Don strikes out, and the Red Sox settle for 1 in the 8th. We'll get a pinch hitter here for the A's. Now it's Lawrence Butler. Hit well center fields. Rafaela bolts back, reaches out, can't make the play. Tommy White gets the windmill around third, and Lawrence Butler comes through. And the A's get the run back here in the 8th.
Feels like a big run, especially in his park. Mentioned Butler coming in, 196 is a fastball up. He gets on top of this ball as a rocket. Of course, Cedon out there, you never know, but just hit too hard. He couldn't outrun the baseball.
Red Sox interest in shortstops. I find this to be a fascinating topic because of what they have, committed to the shortstop position already over the last several years. And we'll get to that momentarily. I do want to sneak in a couple of calls. Again, 617-779-0985. A couple of people on the line, including some that were kind enough to hang on the line last night. I wasn't able to get them on. I think I've called back. Frank in Boston is one of those. So, Frank, go ahead. What do you got?
Yeah, hey, we should have never been in this spot to begin with. The right-handed power bat was meant to be dealt with in the offseason, but they cheaped out. You don't want to try to solve for that at the deadline. It's just too hard and inefficient. But at any rate, this might be a bigger problem for next year than this year. Given its term, here is more of a futures deal than a deadline deal. Now you can't make planning assumptions around this guy. How do you know if he's good? Can he play in Boston and take the pressure? Can he still hit once the opposition figures out his weaknesses, especially at Fenway, where center and right are a black hole? So I'm worried with no real demonstrated performance as a Red Sox, they're going to blindly pencil him in as the right-handed power bat that hits high in the order for next year just because they traded for him and he's cheap. And I think he might end up stinking, and we're going to be back in the same spot at next year's deadline.
So, Frank, it's an interesting point that Jared, obviously, Curtis Mead has term on his contract. In fact, I don't think he's eligible for free agency until like 2030.
2031.
Okay, 2031. So there you go. I mean, they're going to have him here for 5 more years if they want him. If they want him for that period of time. Do you have any concerns about the long-term implications of that injury?
No, I mean, it's his second time with the same injury, but until I have reason to believe, I feel like, when Nomar would have like the wrist injury, we're just so far along medically that I don't really have that much of a concern about it. It seems like a pretty common baseball injury, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
So I'll tell you what, I feel better about this than I did about Nomar's injury. Nomar's injury, I believe, was a tendon.
Torn sheath or whatever?
Yeah,
or that
right.
was Ortiz.
Ortiz had that too, but I think it was a similar injury with Garciaparra. And he needed surgery to repair that. But I don't remember specifically. I'd have to look it up, Jared. But to me, that Nomar was never really the same after that injury. And he was still a good player, but he was a 365, 370 hitter, and then he became more like a 305, 310 hitter.
What a bum, huh?
Well, as it turned out, a lot of it didn't happen here. But the point is, it set him back some, or at least had a hand in setting him back. While we talk about Garciaparra, I guess, let me get to the shortstop thing. There are reports out there, and there have been, that the Red Sox are looking for shortstop help. You mentioned Otto Lopez in the last segment. He plays for the Marlins, got a couple more, 2 or 3 more years of control. I think he's eligible for arbitration after the season for the first time. So you'd have him for 3, even 4 more years, depending on the actual precise service time. But that aside, they've been linked to all kinds of shortstops. The reports are... I'm sorry, Jared?
Free agent in 2030.
2030. Okay. So again, you're talking a few more years or a couple more years. They've been linked to all kinds of shortstops. The reports have indicated that, again, they are more interested in a shortstop for the longer term, meaning it's not just a rental. And at the same time, this is at a period where Trevor Story is signed for 1 more year. Marcelo Meyer has basically a year of service time, which means he could be here for another 5 years. And they have Franklin Arias now at AAA. So you tell me, why are they interested in a shortstop who has term on his deal?
Well, I think when you look at the Trevor Story part of this, it's even when he was healthy, I think it was you can't say it was a mistake because it was the player's decision to come back, but I think if left to their own devices that they probably would have parted ways with Trevor Story after last season. I don't think that they're sold on Marcelo Meyer, and I think Craig Breslow is looking at the spine of your defensive alignment, where it's the catcher, the shortstop, the second baseman, and the center fielder. Like, you need to be strong there, and they've been weak at shortstop. And I think that that's something that has to be addressed. And if it's Otto Lopez, if it's Francisco Lindor, if it's who is the other one that they were linked to?
Jeremy
CJ
Pena?
Abrams,
Okay.
Jeremy Pena, another one. Yeah, like it's not a coincidence that they've been really honed in on shortstop. It's because they want to be strong at that position, and there's options out there. Some would tell you there's options out there, but we've heard the Astros are telling them to kick rocks on anyone because they think that they're still in it. And then I saw right before we came on here, I think Heyman reported that teams are telling other teams that are asking about CJ Abrams no. So that takes 2 off the board.
Okay, but again, I'll tell you what, let's just stick for Lopez then. Let's just stick on that and use him as a test case. He's got 2 more years after this one. Is he a free agent after 2030?
I want to say I can get that answer for you.
Okay, but whatever. It's 2 or 3 years. Okay, it's really actually 3 or 4 years. So there's a good chunk of time. Franklin Arias is now at AAA. So why would they be looking for someone who could be here for 3 or 4 years if Franklin Arias is now just 30, 40 miles down the pike?
It's 3 more years. Yeah, I'm excited about Franklin Arias, but that's another guy where it's. I think the Red Sox have gotten away from the approach that won them championships, and that's that I will trade 3 maybes for a definitely, and they haven't been doing that for a while. They've been hugging their prospects, and because it was draft season about 3 weeks ago, we were going back and looking at all the Red Sox first round picks and the exciting prospects. The best one was Andrew Benintendi. And they haven't really hit on a lot of these guys. Not to say that Franklin Arias won't be an all-star infielder at some point, but yeah, like if I can go out there and get a definitely, then yeah, I'm interested in having that conversation.
Okay, do you think Otto Lopez is a definitely?
I do now, yeah, I do actually.
Okay, so I have doubts about him too. He's another guy whose power jumped up this year compared to prior years of his career. So
it's not even power, it's doubles. Like he's fast, so he can hit the ball in the gaps, and then he leads the league in doubles, but I think he only has like 10 or 11 homers.
I think it's 9 actually, yeah. So when I say power though, I'm including extra base hits. So the speed is important though in that equation. The speed is important. He does lead the National League in doubles.
And batting.
Yep, and batting. But that's another one, Jared. You don't find it at all peculiar that a guy hit 270 last year and his career average was even lower than that, and all of a sudden now he's hitting 330?
Go listen to we had the conversation with him on Monday, and he explained the changes that he made and how he looks at baseball differently and the approach that he takes and what he works on. Like he doesn't do tee work. He's just going in there with the cage and setting up. For example, it's like, all right, yeah, like if I have trouble with lefties, and we set up the whole thing to come in at the same angle as a lefty. Like he's just changed how he prepares, and there's been results from that.
He's
not
mature.
just like, wow, like I can't believe that all of a sudden I'm potentially a batting champion. I've been training and preparing the same exact way. Like he's changed the way that he's prepared.
Okay, so you saying basically he's matured as a hitter, he's matured as a person, he's a better player now, which might be true. I'm just telling you, I always worry when I see a spike in a guy's performance because it's being done for. I think he's eligible for arbitration this year for the first time. So
yeah.
Okay, so, this was sort of like Jacoby Ellsbury one year where he was eligible for arbitration. All of a sudden his numbers jumped through the roof and he was never the same player again. So I just always, raise an eyebrow. I'm skeptical when it comes to players who jump through the roof. And I would say the same about Curtis Mead. So I do worry about guys like that. But let me ask you, let me continue with the shortstops who are here right now. Again, obviously there's a chance they don't make a trade. But based on the fact that they are looking for a shortstop, should we assume that we've seen the last of Trevor Story?
I wouldn't say. I mean, now with the Curtis Mead thing, what if he gets some run at second base at this point? Because, Anthony Siegler, for as good as he's been, it's not like he's secured his spot and he can't be moved off second base. If that were the case, then they wouldn't have traded for Curtis Mead. So yeah, I think Trevor Story could be slotted over. It depends on what they do. Like obviously if you go out there and get a stud shortstop, then yeah, thank you Trevor Story, but you're going to go play some second base now. But I think the question more so is it makes you certainly think about what the belief factor in Marcelo Meyer that the organization has.
So I agree, Jared. I think the story is really about Meyer, and you raise a good point that maybe they decided a long time ago Story wasn't going back to shortstop either way, that it was either going to be Meyer or Arias or someone else. And in this case, Story, I didn't even, that didn't cross my mind. It's a good point that now with Curtis Mead out, in theory, they could try to play Story at second base if they wanted.
He was excellent there.
Story was, yes. Again, that was a few years back now, Jared. So we're going back to 2021 when Xander Bogaerts was still here. So that was 5 years ago at this point. And if he doesn't play this year, it'll be 6 years by the time he takes the field next season.
I think it was
22. 22. Okay.
Yeah, it was 22.
Oh, because Bogarts are still here in 2022.
Yeah.
Okay. Fine. Whatever. It was 4 or 5 years ago. Now, I agree. Do you think that this is any indication that they are prepared to trade Marcelo Meyer in the next 4 days?
Absolutely. Yeah. I don't think that they really have an untouchable. Like for me, like I have untouchables, but I don't think that aligns with how they view it. Like Peyton Tolley for me is an untouchable. I'm not trading Peyton Tolley. I don't know how the Red Sox view it, but I would imagine that if they are knocking on the door of the Kansas City Royals and saying, hey, what'll it take to get Bobby Witt? And then they come back to you and say it's some combination of like Roman Anthony, Franklin Arias, and Anthony Ianson, and Peyton Tolley. Like, is Craig hanging up the phone? Probably not. I think they continue the conversation and try and find common ground. Now, do I think that they're going to trade for Bobby Witt? I don't. I was poking around on that because obviously I would love to have the player, but they are hoping to open up a new ballpark in Kansas City and they want a star player. So it would be a really bad look if they traded their star player. So maybe that's a pipe dream, but I don't think that there's anyone off the table necessarily. Do you think that there's an untouchable on the big league roster or in the system? Because I don't really think so.
No, I don't either. I think they're at a stage now where they are looking at any and all options, including, by the way, moving Roman Anthony. I mean, if someone like Bobby Witt were available and it required Anthony to get him, I think they would entertain it. I do.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. And I'm not criticizing them for it. In fact, I would hope that they would entertain it because that's the kind of deal they should absolutely be looking for. Now, that said, I think they want to hold on to some of these young guys because they value those contracts. And so I'd be surprised if they did it. But you believe really that in the next 4 days that this could be the end of Marcelo Meyer? I'm not saying it's a given. I'm just saying that there's a real chance that they will pull the plug and that'll be the end of it.
I don't feel like, I don't feel as strongly about Meyer over anyone else. Like if you had told me that on Monday they pulled off a trade with, like, let's just say the Marlins and Meyer was in it or wasn't in it, my surprise factor is the same. Like I don't think that they're actively trying to move him, but certainly if you're going out there looking for a shortstop, then I think that you're trying to nudge him into trades so that it all works itself out. So you don't have to just stash him. If they go out there and trade for a shortstop that has team control for the next 3 years after this, then what are you going to do? You're gonna have your first round draft pick from 2021 who got called up to the big leagues last year. You're just going to stash him in AAA, or next year you're going to have him as the replacement for IKF as your utility bench guy. Like I think that they would like to capitalize on whatever trade value he has at this moment, because if you do bring in that long-term shortstop, what becomes of Marcelo Meyer's trade value? It doesn't really ascend from here because it wouldn't have the opportunity to.
Yeah, so look, there's always a chance they could play him more at second base if they wanted to as well. I'm just telling you that I think
you got Curtis Mead now.
Okay, so again, but he might be a DH. You know what I mean? So, and you'll take the better defense if Meyer can play. I just don't know that they believe Meyer can play anymore. I guess what I'm getting at is this, Jared. I wonder, now that I think of it, I wonder if all this talk about the Red Sox looking for a shortstop is predicated in part on a team's willing to take Marcelo Meyer. In other words, if you're trading a shortstop, you might say, yeah, we'll take a chance on Meyer. That could turn out to be a good replacement. We'll take a shot on it. And the Red Sox are seeing, what they could get for him in terms of getting someone back. That gives them a little wiggle room with Arias. You can take your time there because, as we've seen, these guys don't all come up and play well right away. And so you take a shot there, see if you can get something from Meyer, and maybe there's something you could do in the way of a deal that makes more sense now. But I am already way over this segment, Jared. So what we're going to do here is Majori's going to get us caught up on headlines. And there was something that happened in Major League Baseball today that I think relates, obviously, directly to the trade deadline. And it is the kind of moment that I think is, bittersweet is a word I would use. We'll explain to you what that was when we come back on the Baseball Hour. So that happened today today in Detroit what could or will likely be the final start for Tarek Skubal in a Detroit Tigers uniform. He went 6 2/3, struck out 6, gave up 3 runs, although I think he left the game with a 7-0 lead that the Tigers subsequently blew. That's funny. I'm sorry. 10-9 final. The Orioles come back and beat the Tigers in Detroit. But I don't know, Jared. I'm a sucker for that kind of moment. I want to get your thoughts on it as well with regard to Skubal, where he may be going, etc. But before we do that, Chuck in a car has been waiting on the line patiently. Chuck, what do you got?
Hey, Mazz. Yeah, hi, Jared. So, is it me or the Sox seem to be in a funk right now? I mean, they're not really playing that well since the break. I mean, they are at 500, but, I mean, the defense has been weak. I mean, even Rafael missed a catch he should have had last night. I mean, is there area to be concerned there? I mean, at this rate, I'm not even sure if they'll split with Oakland. And these are games they got to win. What's your take on that?
Okay, so I don't know that I would say that they're in a funk. That feels a little strong. And he said 500 since the break, which I think is complete bullcrap. They are, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. They are 9-3 since the break. So I don't know where you got 500 since the break. They've been pretty good since the All-Star break. What I will say, though, Jared, is that in this series against the A's, they haven't played great. I mean, they've split these 2 games. They haven't really hit. The first night, there were a couple of errors. Last night, they didn't get any key hits. So I can sort of, I semi-agree with the idea that they haven't looked as sharp the last couple of days. I don't know if you agree with that or not, but that said, I think tonight's game is kind of important. Tonight is Sandoval, right? Sonny Gray is tomorrow. Yep. And so I just don't think you want to lose this game. And Sonny Gray's tomorrow night. I feel a little bit better about that, although he hasn't been great in the last couple. I do feel like they're, I don't want to say they're going to skid, but I do feel like they're going to hit some bumps here this week. You tell me whether I'm making that up.
I mean, you just read it. 9-3 since the break, and last night that ball that Anthony Siegler hit was a home run in 7 ballparks. So, I mean, that would have been the tying home run in the 9th inning. I think to your point, have they looked sluggish? Absolutely. You're getting no hit through the first 5 innings in the first game of the series against a guy that had a 6.75 ERA coming into that outing. Like, yeah, you're dragging ass, but at the end of the day, you had Ceddanne Rafaela hit a game-winning grand slam. You go on and win a ball game. Last night, kind of the same thing where you're just looking sluggish. You're not doing much offensively, and they're not getting off to hot starts, which felt like that was what they were doing every single night during that winning streak, or at least when they were winning 20 out of 22. They would be the team to score first, and they would build on the lead, and then they would snuff them out with their pitching and defense. But yeah, last night was a tough watch. They could very easily just win the next 2, and then you have 3 out of 4 in Sacramento, and no one's talking about how there's bumps in the road, or it's a West Coast trip where they look sluggish. Of course, yeah, they look sluggish, but they could very easily still take 3 out of 4 in this series. And I'm not going to say they probably should have swept because they didn't play well enough last night to sweep. It could have been a different story if that Siegler ball carries over the fence. But yeah, take 3 out of 4 and keep it moving.
Yeah, what I can tell you is they shouldn't split this series, and which is why tonight to me is an important game. You don't want to be facing a potential series loss going into the finale. Before I wrap it up with you, because I do want to ask you sort of what your expectations are as they approach the deadline on, let's see, today's 29, 30, 30, for the third Monday. As they approach the deadline on Monday, give me 30 seconds on Tarek Skubal. Again, he looks like he's throwing the ball well again. His last start before today, 12 strikeouts. Today he left with a 7-0 lead. They ended up charging 3 runs to him, but I don't think he actually allowed any of them when he was on the mound. And where do you think Skubal is going to end up?
Yeah, Skubal right now, he's kind of passed the test of, a guy that got the loose bodies removed from his elbow and only had a month before he returned, which is crazy. But the Dodgers seem to be the favorite, which is going to piss off a lot of fans, but they are the favorite. If I'm the Tampa Bay Rays, this is the kind of deal that I pony up and pull the trigger on, because They are the team that can never quite get over the hump. They're good every year. They're not great every year. They're never going to get a player of Scooble's caliber to agree to sign there. They're never going to have the money to sign a player like Scooble, but surely you can force the issue and trade for him. And if they were able to do that, I think that makes them a far more dangerous team than I think people realize. Does it give them a better pitching staff than the Yankees? It doesn't. But it sure gives them a guy that when you go into a 7-game series, I like my chances having Scooble pitching, let's say it's the World Series, 2 games and they come out of the bullpen in game 7 if need be. And you can run him into the ground if you want to, because obviously they're not going to have any concerns about re-signing him in free agency. Like, this is kind of like the Sabathia 08 Milwaukee Brewers deal, where it's like, all right, yeah, like you can trade for this guy, he can make a difference, and then send him on his way.
So I'll tell you what, Jared, we were talking earlier about, the Red Sox. Right now they're in the second wild card position, so you can start to play with the idea of, okay, if the playoffs ended today, who are you going to play and who would you want to play? I will reserve judgment until I find out where this guy goes. Mm-hmm. So if Scooble ends up with Tampa Bay, you don't want to play Tampa Bay. I don't want to play Tampa Bay anyway. But even so, I would rather play the Yankees, assuming that Aaron Judge is out. I'll take my chances with the Yankees. But Scooble is a complete game changer when you get into the postseason. Now, before we let you go, we have a few more minutes. Again, just it's trading deadlines on Monday, so we're talking 4 or 5 days. What do you want to see them do? And you can give me generalities. You don't have to give me specific names. But do you want to see a bat and a reliever, a bat and a starter? What number of deals are realistic to expect? They've already made one, which obviously is blown up because Curtis Mead's not going to be able to help them for some time, if at all. But you tell me, what is Jared Carrabis looking for come Monday at 6 o'clock?
Yeah, I mean, I think my mind immediately goes to that Otto Lopez, Liam Hicks combo. You can kill 2 birds with 1 stone, and they've been looking for offense wherever they can get it, and behind the dish is certainly a position that you can add offense, and Liam Hicks will be able to do that for you. Obviously at shortstop, I think a lot of fans have moved on from both Story and Meyer, and it would be nice to have some sort of I don't want to say franchise player, but like an all-star, a standout actually at shortstop. And I think Otto Lopez does that for you. If that's not something that they can get done, then I've been saying all along, let's call the Rockies, have the Hunter Goodman conversation, because that's a guy that I think he transforms this lineup. He's young. He's a star. He's an all-star. He's consistent. He hits away from Coors Field. So if you're one of those people that thinks he only hits in elevation, you're wrong. He actually hits better on the road. He's someone that, that's a guy you add to this lineup. And let's just say Roman Anthony's not a part of that trade. You have a Hunter Goodman, and then Roman Anthony gets healthy, and what he can do from an offensive standpoint, you transform your offense. That's quite the lineup that you'd be able to roll out there come playoff time.
Yeah, so look, the idea of that Marlins trade, you get 2 bats, I'd be thrilled. Please. Do you feel like I do that, Jared, I think there's a hole in the bullpen. And when I say a hole, I'm talking about, they could use like a legit 7th inning guy. That I would put, right before Whitlock in that sequence. The end of the game is the end of the game. It was good last year. It's good now, even if Chapman's not quite the same guy. I don't love Guerrero and Slayton as a combo tandem in the 7th inning. If you had those guys in the 6th and added a true 7th inning guy, well, then dare I say, Jared, that they could have themselves some sort of super pen.
Wow. Yeah, people have been clamoring for the super pen in the streets for many years now. I believe in Tyrone Guerrero. I do. I understand that he's a journeyman that is 35 years old, that came out of nowhere. But those numbers, they're hard to deny. I don't know where you would look to try to discredit that guy. Slayton's the guy where it's like, all right, yeah, we've seen him. We've been hearing about, he's closer material and he's electric. Yes, he's had some bad blowups this year. Overall, The consistency worries me a tad, but not enough to where I don't have faith in those four guys, the Whitlocks, the Chapmans, the Slaytons, and the Guerreros, where sure, like if you want to add one more guy, maybe throw a lefty in there because obviously Chapman is a lefty, but he's your closer. He's not going to be able to come in situationally at all. If you wanted to add a lefty reliever, sure. Like you're not having Justin Wilson. It's stood out to me this year, just having that lefty in the bullpen that you can go to. But the other thing too is I do think it's a valid concern, something to be able to address at the trade deadline, a veteran starting pitcher, because you're going to have a certain point coming up very soon where guys like Peyton Tolley and Jake Bennett hit their not innings limit, but they are far surpassing the innings total that were previously career highs for them, and we don't know what that looks like on the other side. So it would be beneficial to have a guy that you know that you can ride until the end of the year and potentially through the month of October.
I think the term you're looking for, Jared, is uncharted territory. Those guys are going into uncharted territory, as the saying goes. So, look, we'll see what happens. Should be an eventful, 4 or 5 days. I don't think they're done. I don't know how much they're going to do. And there's got to be a limit somewhere. Like, I don't know if they're going to make 5 trades. So they're going to have to, I would put it this way. I'll just say quickly, if they're going to bypass something, to me, it's going to be the starting rotation. Because the starters they have been pretty good, and you can't get everything that you want at the deadline. Do we know what day you're going to be with us yet next week, Jared?
You tell me.
Oh, it honestly doesn't matter. If we have to wait, I just didn't know if it was already pre-programmed.
No, Jimmy usually texts me, my wise man, and he says, what day can we have you this week? And I say, whatever works for Tony.
Okay. Well, the deadline's Monday, so we'll see what happens there. And if there's an urgency, we'll make a decision on the fly. But generally speaking, we shoot for Wednesday in the middle of the week, as we did this week. So, Jared, always good to talk to you, my friend.
It's great to see you, Tony.
Happy anniversary, my friend.
That's a decade. Wow, that's not nothing. I heard Felger say that. That's not nothing. 10 years.
Amazing. I have a history of long relationships, Jared, in case you're wondering.
Well, that's good.
Yeah.
Add me to the list.
Okay, so there you go. Anyway, Kevin Maggioria will get you caught up on headlines here. Again, the latest concerning Curtis Mead, who will apparently not need surgery. Maggioria will give you the details on that. Joe Murray has you for the balance of the night. We will catch you tomorrow on Felger and Mazz.
Stay tuned for more of the baseball